You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Greetings, everyone. Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily, episode 1555. This one is all about feeding horses for weight gain. And for all of you who have air ferns, take heed, because there will be some takeaways for you, too. So happy to have on the show again a nutritionist from Purina Animal Nutrition. We've been having these smart folks come on the show every month for the past few months, and I'm learning so much about horse nutrition and how I can do the best for my horse. And this time we've got Kelly Vineyard on. She is a senior nutritionist for Equine Technical Solutions. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thanks for having me, Jennifer.
This time we're going to be talking about feeding horses for weight gain, which is rather timely because fall and winter are some of the times of year that so many horse owners struggle to keep weight on their horses. So why don't we define what weight and weight gain is, since we did body condition last time?
Well, sure. I mean, weight gain or weight and body condition are related, but they are different in that weight is just the amount of pounds, your horse weighs at any given time. And you can measure that either using a weight tape, which is an estimate. You measure the heart girth in inches, and that can give you a good estimate of body weight based on some calculations. Or you can use a digital scale if you're lucky enough to have access to one. Whereas, body condition is just a way to estimate basically fatness of a horse. And it's on a scale of 1 to 9, 1 being emaciated, 9 being, grossly obese. And so weight is something that's going to fluctuate, based on calorie intake and other things. And body condition goes along with it, but you don't know if your horse is the right weight without also considering their body condition. So they go hand in hand.
So they're brothers in arms.
That's right.
That's right. So a lot of folks struggle fall and winter keeping weight on their horses. What are the really common causes of that particular struggle?
Well, when I am faced with working with someone who has an underweight horse, and I've been doing this for many years, I can kind of put it into with 3 different categories. So number one, the first question to always ask is there something underlying health condition going on? One of the most common underlying health conditions can be related to teeth and poor dentition. So, you can feed your horse as much food and hay as possible, but if they can't chew it and assimilate it, it's not going to help them maintain a healthy weight. But there's a lot of other health conditions, and that's where you would work with your veterinarian, check for parasites, gastric ulcers. But there's a lot of other health conditions, and that's where you would work with your veterinarian. Next thing is certainly, it kind of goes along with health conditions, but it's more just related to age. So as horses age, oftentimes they will lose the ability to chew as efficiently and also digest as efficiently. So again, if you're finding that you're feeding your horse a lot of hay and a lot of feed and they're still thin, perhaps there is just this kind of age-related decline in the ability to chew and digest hay that needs to be addressed by switching over to a complete feed, which includes long stem forage sort of built into the pellet. And Purina Equine Senior is a perfect example of that. And number 3 is kind of obvious, but maybe not so much obvious. If your horse is underweight, you might just not be feeding enough calories. You may think you are, and that's where it really is helpful to work with a nutritionist or work with someone really knowledgeable about feeding horses, so you can actually calculate, how much calories does my horse need a day to maintain his body weight? And then, what is his workload? Is he exercising, which increases his calorie requirement? And then you look at what he actually is eating every day and the calorie content of both his forage and his concentrate if you're feeding it. And does that equal or exceed his requirements? And if it's below his requirements, there's your answer. That's why he's not gaining weight. You have to make sure you're providing him enough calories to make sure he maintains or gains weight.
So whenever you're looking at those things, you are feeding X pounds of hay plus Y pounds of concentrate, or to most folks, grain. And you add those two together, but you need to delve a little bit deeper because you can be feeding 5 pounds of grain number 1 or 5 pounds of grain number 2, but the calories your horse gets and the nutrition the horse gets from those two products might be very different. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And that can be a source of like frustration for a lot of horse owners. And quite honestly, sometimes for me, because we can't easily find information about calorie level of grains and of concentrate. So that's where, you have to go back to the manufacturer and inquire, how many calories per pound is this, Ultium competition that I'm feeding? So like, for example, with Purina, if you inquire about that, you can call customer service or email customer service, and they will give you that information.
So whenever you have a horse that needs to gain some weight or is prone to losing weight, what are some things we can do that are a little bit more proactive so that doesn't happen?
Well, from a concentrate perspective, you certainly, if you have a kind of an average keeper or say a hard keeper, you're going to want to feed something with higher calorie content. So usually that's a fat added feed, something like, either Purina Ultium, which I mentioned, which is our highest calorie feed in our lineup. And also there's Equine Senior Active, which is a high fat, high calorie feed specifically for senior horses. Spoiler alert, you can also feed it to other age horses. I actually feed Senior Active to my 10-year-old horse because it's such a great formula and I love it. So feed a high fat, high fiber feed through the winter months and can kind of keep supplementing calories that maybe he's not getting through the forage, because what's the big change in the winter? You're going from, potentially a lot of pasture access, then you're switching over to your hay. So you're sort of at the mercy of your hay quality. And so that's actually something else you should be paying attention to, is feeding, good quality hay and plenty of it. And if you're concerned about your grass hay, quality, maybe it's too stimmy or maybe it's, not as good as you'd like for it to be, you might even consider supplementing it with some better quality forage. Maybe supplementing it with some alfalfa hay or maybe some alfalfa cubes if you can't access good hay. So making sure you're getting good quality calories from both your forage and your concentrate is especially important in the winter.
So does a lot of folks in the winter months depend very heavily on what we're going to call concentrate feeds that come in a bag versus feeds that come in a bale. Does Purina offer any products that horse owners can use to help supplement that long stem hay that the horse either might not want to eat for whatever reason, or supplement it because the long stem hay they have is not of particularly good quality, but they don't have the ability to get or store better quality long stem hay? Do they have anything like that?
So, well, first of all, there's a product called Impact Hay Stretcher, and I love this product because it is what it says it is. It is literally a hay stretcher product. You use it to stretch your long stem hay supply. And basically a 3-quart scoop will replace on average like a flake of hay. Moving on from the hay stretcher, then you have complete feeds. So the two main ones would be Equine Senior, which is a true complete feed. It's got the forage built in, but it also has like all the vitamins, essential nutrients. You can feed, that can be the only thing you feed if necessary. And that's a great way. You don't even have to feed it all the way. You can just partially feed some senior and maybe supplement it, maybe with your Ultium or some other higher calorie feed to stretch your hay or replace your hay if your horse can't chew. And then there's a product called Omeline 400, which I really love too. It's a beet pulp based complete feed. I mean, all of these complete feeds have beet pulp in them, but when you look at it, there's a lot of loose beet pulp. It's really tasty. Horses like it, but it's also high calorie. So for these hardworking horses that may not have access to really good quality hay, Omeline 400 and say you're a beet pulp person. A lot of us love feeding beet pulp because of its good digestible fiber. Omeline 400 is beet pulp based, but it also has added fat. It's balanced. It doesn't have that like really wonky calcium phosphorus ratio that plain beet pulp has. And so it's another really good option to use to help stretch your hay supply if you can't find good hay.
Many of us are big beet pulp fans for the reasons you mentioned. So for somebody who wants to have beet pulp in the horse's diet for those reasons, using a product like that can help solve the problem of living somewhere where soaking the beet pulp before feeding is problematic because it does not need to be soaked.
Right.
It's designed specifically to be fed right out of the bag. Is that right?
Correct. You do not need to soak it. And it's also much more calorie dense pound for pound. So you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck out of something like Omni 400. It's 1,400 calories per pound.
That's a lot.
It's got Outlast built into it. Oh, yeah. Whereas regular beet pulp is, maybe around 1,000, 1,100, something like that, depending on what you're working with. And it's balanced, and you get all the essential nutrients kind of built in. The cost ends up actually working out in your favor with Omni 400.
Yeah. Over the winter months in particular, but this would account for year round, you want to feed a concentrate that your horse is able to maintain appropriate body weight while staying in the parameters of how much you should feed your horse.
Feeding directions are kind of funny, and they vary from manufacturer to manufacturer too. But for Purina feeds, we have a very clear statement of a minimum feeding rate. So for our concentrate feeds like Ultium, like Senior Active, like Strategy, it's going to be 0.3 pounds per 100 pounds of body weight. So for a 1,000-pound horse, that's if you feed a minimum of 3 pounds a day, and you pair it with 1.2% of their body weight in hay, which is kind of the minimum hay recommendation, you will meet 100% of their essential nutrient requirements.
I'm going to put an exclamation point beside that because you've met all of their nutrition requirements, but now the next step is, am I meeting his calorie needs? In other words, is he keeping the weight? So let's say you're doing those things, but he's really not keeping the weight. Right? Now you go up
from there.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, you go up from there, and then that's where you'll see these charts sometimes on the feeding directions. And on Purina, the tags will put 800-pound horse, 1,000-pound horse, a 1,200-pound horse, and usually there's a range. So for a 1,000-pound horse, the range may go 4 to 6 pounds a day for light work. And that's where you decide, okay, do I need to be on the low end of that range or the high end of that range? And that's based on his body condition. If he's a little thin, you're going to be on the high end of the range. Another trick is if he's underweight, you go up a workload. So say you're only riding your horse a couple times a week. That's probably light work, but he's a 4 and you really want to get some rib cover on him. You want him to gain weight. I will go up to moderate work or maybe even the heavy work recommendation and then feed at that recommended rate because I know that's an elevated calories. It's still a safe amount to feed per day, but just it's more calories than his current workload is, but those calories will go to weight gain.
They'll go to weight gain, and then as he gets to where you want, you're gonna check that again and make sure you level it off. Yeah, there you go. Well,
that's right.
This has been so informative, Kelly. And if folks' heads are spinning or your eyes are blurry, you can go to purinamills.com/feed-finder. Or if you go to your search engine and put Purina Horse Feed Finder, it'll pop up. It's got great SEO. Or you can just go to purinamills.com and they have a contact phone number in there. And I have reached out to the Purina nutritionists on multiple occasions over the years, and they are always friendly and helpful, just like Kelly. So do that. And thanks a lot for stopping by and straightening out weight gain for wintertime. Well, there you have it. Horse Radio Network has thousands of engaging podcasts for horse people, and you can have them sent right to your phone. Just subscribe via your favorite podcast player. This is Coach Jen, and I will be back again soon with another tip. Until then, go ride your horse. The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements made by guests on the Horse Tip Daily. Please use your own judgment when listening to the tips on this show.